To the final event on the agenda today, the 750cc Superstocks Challenge on bikes that you or I could ride straight out of the showroom, though it's not quite as easy as that, of course. It's a great test of riding skill. Before we see the race, let's hear from three of the protagonists: Richard Scott, Keith Ewan and Steve Parish.
Steve Parish, if I can start with you, it's a very special afternoon today.
Yeah, I've made my decision that this is my last season racing, and I'm going to put my efforts into running the Loctite Yamaha team next year. I've decided that with Kenny Irons running in the team and another rider next year, we've got a great chance of winning this series that we're doing, and I'm very excited about the prospects.
So you're not lost to motorcycling, but you won't be riding?
Absolutely not. I shall still be here causing troubles.
Keith Ewan over there at the end of the lineup. You've raced in all sorts of different formulae around the world. What's the appeal of this event?
I think it's because it's such close racing and it's at a budget that everybody can afford. I am a privateer backed by a building firm, SDC in Bedford, and without them, at a reasonable budget, you wouldn't be able to afford to go racing. 500 Grand Prix racing, which I've been involved in for some time, it's just got cost prohibitive. You cannot afford to go racing anymore. And besides, in England, this is the only race that people come to see nowadays. It's the best race of the day.
Well, nearest me, we've got Richard Scott. Richard, you've obviously had a problem in a race fairly recently, judging by the look of the face.
Alden Park last weekend, guy crashed in front of me, over him I went, and hence 5 stitches to my lip. And
you're okay now? Yeah. I know the three of you are great friends and rivals. Who's going to win this afternoon?
I am, he is and he is. There's going to be a three-way spread. Who knows? It's all such close racing. It could literally be a three-man win for everyone. It's so close at times.
We shall see.
Steve Parish hedging his bets there. They're already into the warm-up lap, so let's go straight over to the commentary box now for the Superstocks Challenge.
Yes, indeed, Superstocks introduced to Britain just 2 years ago, and they've been one of the successors of the British man and racing scene. This year, the Motorcycle News EBC series has produced some excellent racing. This cup race today, the Shell Oils Superstock Cup race, should provide us with some sensational action from the men who normally take part in these Superstock events. Well, Peter, who's your money on?
Well, I don't know, it's really tricky in it. There's so many good guys on evenly lapped machines, and the three men we saw being talked to earlier, any one of them could do it. There's also other guys like Roger Marshall, Roger Burnett, Neil Robinson, Kenny Irons. It's very, very tricky. All these bikes very, very well prepared. They start off as showroom motorcycles, and then there's a lot of work to be done to them after that. Special forks, special brakes, special suspension units. Everyone's got their own ideas about what makes them the best motorcycle. We've got Suzuki's, Yamahas and Hondas all lined up on the front row.
And on the front row of the grid there, number 5 to the right of your picture there, the local boy, Trevor Nation. Well, he's had success in Superstock racing over the past couple of years. He would like to win this race today. Next to him, number 16, Keith Ewan on the SDC Suzuki. There is Keith Ewan. Well, Keith, who turned his back on Grand Prix racing to take up this form of 4-stroke production-based racing. The traffic light signals are on red, and they've been given the signal being engaged. They've changed to green. Away they go. The charge off the grid, and Steve Parish and Kenny Irons, the two Loctite Yamaha men, are out in front, and it's Kenny Irons who leads from Steve Parish. Kenny Irons, the protege of Steve Parish, leads, and Steve Parish, Stavros, is there in second place to watch Kenny Irons in action. Irons on the Yamaha, Parish on the Yamaha in second place. Then it's Neil Robinson, Scotty Robinson, on the Skull Bandit Suzuki in third place. Well, what a tremendous start from Kenny Irons.
Absolutely lightning start. The 4-cylinder 4-stroke shot off the line there. Irons judging the clutch slip and the rear tyre traction to perfection to get a superb lead on the first lap.
And Kenny Irons' knee just skimming the tarmac, and Parish is there just holding off the rest of the opposition. If he can give Kenny Irons a good start in it, and Scotty Robinson's gone through, and in fact Steve Parish loses 2 places there. I didn't see who dived through into third place.
No, it's very difficult to see. Somebody came underneath him, a really tricky manoeuvre at that point in the circuit, but Irons look as though he's even getting away.
So coming round to complete their first of 8 laps, it's Kenny Irons out in front, and it's Neil Robinson who's been pushed back into third Neil Robinson down into third position. Parrish in fourth spot. But Kenny Irons setting an absolutely scorching pace out in front.
And we remember seeing Irons doing great things on this machine at the match races on ITV Sport at the beginning of the season when he did battle with the great American riders Thruxton and Merkel, and now he's showing what he can do just in front of the all British riders behind him.
Mellor there in second place, and more changes lower down the leaderboard. Ken Irons tucked in as much as he can, no real fairing on this bike. Oh, and a nasty switch on the bumps of Thruxton there. That came close to throwing him off, Peter.
Yeah, it was a very, very nasty moment. Kenny had to take a real grip on the bars to fight that one. Of course, these Superstocks machines have quite wide bars that allows the rider quite a leverage advantage over the machine, and Irons needed all of that advantage to fight the Yamaha on that occasion.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it? We all thought that Roger Burnett perhaps would be the star of this 2-4 Sports promoted meeting, but it's not. It's Kenny Irons for me who's been the man of the meeting. Mellor, Robinson, then down in fourth place is John Lofthouse, and that's a good performance from John Lofthouse up there with the factory boys. Kenny Irons, though, charging through, and look at that pack behind. 8, 7, 8 then. Roger Marshall right at the back of them, failing to get to grips. Some of the factories, Skull Bandit Suzuki's well down there. That looked like Chris Martin or Paul Lydon well back.
Yes, and Irons has got to watch it at this point because the speed he's going at, the bumps are really abusing the tyre and suspension unit. Now, if he overuses either one of them, the rear traction's going to be rapidly disappearing. It's only an 8-lap race, and that may save him, but it still could be a problem over the last couple of laps.
A real hectic scrap. At the end of the second lap, it was this man, Kenny Irons, who leads. In second place, Phil Mellor. In third spot, Smutty Robinson, then John Lofthouse, Trevor Nation, Steve Parrish, Richard Scott, and Roger Marshall. Kenny Irons out in front, and there is that battle behind, and it looks as though Lofthouse has lost a place, and Roger Marshall looks as though he's lost a couple of positions. This is the battle for second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth places. And that is John Lofthouse, I think, number 34. Well, what a tremendous performance from Lofthouse. Oh, but Phil Mellor goes round the outside as if he's standing still. So it's Mellor back into second place. Lofthouse, Neil Robinson, Richard Scott, Trevor Nation, then Steve Parrish and Roger Marshall behind him. Keith Hewitt in that group. And all the time, Kenny Irons is galloping away in front. And Roger Burnett pulls out of the race. Roger Burnett, number 9, out of the race.
Yes, and a tremendous battle between these two 750 Suzukis, these similar oil-cooled machines.
3 laps gone, they're on their 4th lap, and John Lofthouse is battling away on this privately owned machine. Well, that's one of the advantages of Superstock racing. The factory men don't have it all their own way, and the lead now just under 2.5 seconds. Well, what a superb dice. And I know one man who'll be enjoying this one in his hospital bed at the moment, and that's Neil Tuxworth, injured at Aberdare Park. We wish Neil Tuxworth a speedy recovery. Bad luck, the school holidays are over, Neil, but you'll be back up and about soon.
And there's Irons there, bumping, battling and weaving at over 140, 150 miles an hour. And the battle for second place is getting even hotter, with Scott moving into third place on the white Honda.
And there's a man you know all about, Peter.
Yes, he's a Kiwi from Wanganui. Richard Scott moves into second place on the Honda.
Well, of course, it's Peter Clifford's sponsor. He even uses your van.
Yes.
So come on, own up to it.
Yes, I'm a bit biased as far as Scotty's concerned, because he's come a long way from New Zealand to race in England, and he's doing very, very well, chasing Kenny Irons, the leader.
And the ambulance there's been a bit of an incident on the far side. Difficult to see who's involved at the moment, but the officials are there, and we're watching now the scrap out in front as Richard Scott makes and consolidates second place his own. Richard Scott, then Phil Mellor, then John Lofthouse. In fact, John Lofthouse has gone back ahead of Phil Mellor. Up there as well is Smutty Robinson. Trevor Nation is battling away there. Steve Parrish.
And as we're back watching Kenny Irons, the leader, it looks as though Irons has lost a few yards to Scott. Maybe he has abused the tyres and suspension over the bumps, and Scott now closing in a little bit on Irons as the race runs towards its close.
Well, we saw Richard Scott's well-punched mouth a little earlier. Despite the pain, he's battling away here, Peter.
Yes, he has. He's put the unfortunate incidents of last weekend behind him, and I think Irons may have hit some sort of trouble because Scott gaining on him very, very rapidly now. I wonder if Irons has had enough good pit signals to warn him that Scott is closing with every corner.
He's not just closing with every corner, he's closing with every yard, and Richard Scott looks as though he's going to win this one. And there is the battle behind. There is the scrap for the lead, and it's John Lofthouse ahead of Phil Mellor as they go through in 3rd and 4th place. They've finished. They've done 5 laps now. They're on their 6th lap of this 8-lap battle, and what a superb dice we've had.
And it really is down to handling, I think. There's Irons' machine bumping and weaving all over the road, and Scott's machine does seem to be performing much, much better. That's down to Ron Grant, and who's done an awful lot of work on Scott's machine, and Ron Williams, the suspension expert in the Honda camp.
Yeah, Ron Grant, of course, is an Englishman who moved over to the United States to go racing for US Suzuki many years ago, and he's a very experienced character. Ron Williams, the man who used to build the Maxton frames and has been a key figure in Honda's racing plans, and they've done wonders for Richard Scott and Cam Scott. Look at that, those bikes split and weave. Kenny Irons on the wider line, Scotty looking for the inside line, and Richard Scott goes through to take the lead, but can Kenny Irons come through back on the inside again? He's on the tighter line, and Kenny will not give up. Kenny Irons is not the sort of man who eases off. They are side by side, and Kenny Irons will not give way. He's a hard little devil, and Kenny Irons hangs on there. Superb Richard Scott there, pushed back into 2nd place. They're through the chicane. That is the end of the 6th lap. 2 more laps to go.
And as we saw those bikes side by side, it really looked as though there was no speed advantage to anyone, so it's down to riding. You can see Irons' machine twitching and weaving all over the road. He's really in trouble to try and keep the power on, but he's gritted his teeth, grabbed hold of those handlebars, and he'll battle with the bike all the way to the finish.
End of the 6th lap. It's Irons and Scott out in front, then Phil Mellor 3rd, John Lofthouse behind him, then Roger Hurst looks as though he's moved up in that group, and that's a good ride. Number 7, that's Neil Robinson, he's down in 5th place. Then Trevor Nation, Roger Marshall, Steve Barrett. And Lord Scott looking for the inside line again. But Kenny Irons is so brave, so hard, he will not give way at all. And if Richard Scott wants to win this one, he's going to have to win it the hard way, Peter.
Yes, he's going to just have to ride around Irons and leave him no room at the final corners. Make the best of the way the Honda is handling, and it certainly does seem to be working better than the Yamaha. He pulls alongside him, tucks into his slipstream this time.
And Irons just saying, well, I dare you, I'm going as hard as I can. If you want to go past me, you're going to have to really stick your neck out. They're coming through to start their 8th and final lap. Kenny Irons in front, a little bit slow out of the chicane. Is this the chance that Richard Scott was looking for? And these Superstock machines will be in action in the EBC Championship at Donington at the end of this month, and if Scott and Irons can produce this form, what a race that could be.
Incredible stuff, and these are, don't forget, these are road bike-based machines. That's the FZ 750 Yamaha leading the VFR 750 Honda, the air-cooled 4 leading the water-cooled V4.
Kenny Irons leading Richard Scott. Well, I think Kenny Irons, but a lot of people might have picked as a potential winner, but I don't think anyone would have said Richard Scott.
And I think we might see Scotty go round the outside of Irons on the very, very fast run down to the last chicane. It'll be a test of nerves and a test of braking. Scotty's in front. He's got inside Irons. The superior handling of the Honda. Irons' bike shaking around all over the place as he tries to go round past Scott again. It's going to be desperate stuff, only a couple of corners to go.
And Scott holding off Kenny Irons. What a fine ride from Roger Hurst. While all this has been going on, Roger Hurst has battled through, and Roger Hurst is in 3rd place. Scott from Kenny Irons, and Kenny Irons falls out of the slipstream, and Kenny Irons almost leading, and he's going to charge through. He's a brave boy, and Irons is back in front. He's on the limit. absolutely on the limit into the chicane. He's just closed the door on Richard Scott, and Scott is going to wind on the Paris and sprint to the line, and Kenny Irons is going to do it by half a machine's length. It's Kenny Irons the winner. In second place, Richard Scott. Third is Roger Hurst, and what a fine performance that was from Roger Hurst. I just checked with the lap scorers to see who was. No, it wasn't. It was Trevor Nation who came storming through, and in fact we lost Roger Hurst on that final circuit. Well, we're going to have to check with the official lap scorers to see where Roger Hurst finished, but no doubt about the winner. It's this man, Kenny Irons from Luton, in second place. A fine second place from Richard Scott, the Kiwi. We're just checking with the lap scorer to see who was in third position. And in third place, Trevor Nation, the local boy. Kenny Irons the winner, Richard Scott second, and Trevor Nation, the local boy, third.
Not a bad race to go out on, was it? A thrilling victory there for Kenny Irons. Let's just have a look at the rest of the 1, 2, 3. Richard Scott in second place, and Trevor Nation